Well, hello and welcome to our reading of Theocritus, and I'm going to go through just a few of the Theocritean poems in a series of videos. Theocritus is a Hellenistic poet, comes from the island of Kos originally, but he travels around various parts of Greece. He's writing roughly about from the 280s BC through to the middle of that century. He writes mainly pastoral poetry, although we do get other genres in his writing. The ones I'm going to go through are all examples of pastoral poetry, with one exception of Idyll 2, which is more of a city poem. The pastoral setting varies between being very beautiful and very idealistic. And in some of the Idylls, not ones we're going to look at, but in some of the Idylls they're slightly more realistic and slightly harsher. But my favourite poems, the ones I'm going to look at, which is going to be at least initially Idylls 1, 6 and 7, are set in this pastoral scene which is very idealistic and very beautiful. It's escapist poetry. Now, Theocritus should be more widely read, but one of the reasons why he probably isn't is because the dialect he writes in can be a little bit off-putting when you first come to it, and it does take a little bit of getting used to, but I assure you it's worth the effort. We get various dialect forms that you have to get used to. I'll talk about these as we go through, but of course the most fundamental one is that a lot of the alphas are being you get alphas in place of eters in a lot of places. In fact, the very first word here, hadu, is for hairdo, sweet. The other things to notice that will jump out at you is that we get an omega for an oo. So the genitive singular oo is written as an omega. We get ace for ain, that's very common. For the third person singular, imperfect of the verb to be, we get potty for pros. We get I for a, the word for if, and an, well, instead of using the Homeric ke, which you get in Homer, he uses ka again, various different things we'll see. I'll mention other ones as we go through. The meter of it is in dactylic hexameter. That is, it's tum, 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 and that's repeated through into a hexameter, with of course the usual variations. And so let's start reading through this first Idyll. In the first 6 lines here sets up the framework of the poem. We have this interchange between Thyrsis and this unnamed Ipylos. Ipylos is a word for a goatherd. And this sets up the rustic element in the poem. Thyrsis greets the goatherd and praises his musical ability, and making sure he gives to the gods their proper place in the bucolic schema. And we have various prizes mentioned for if he wins this singing contest, he will get various prizes, and they're discussed in the first bit here. So, hadu tietop siphorisma kai hapitus I politena. Ha potitais pagaisin melisdatai hadu dekai tu surisdes. Metapana ton deuteron athlon epoise. I katenos hele keraon tragon aig atulapse. Eka aigalabe tenos geras este katare hakimeros. Kimero de kalon krias estiamilxes. So hadu for hadu, sweet. So sweet in some ways. So the stithorisma is an onomatopoetic word. It often means just whispering. Possibly here it might mean rustling of leaves. So the rustling of leaves is sweet to some extent. There is a certain sweetness in it, in the rustling. And Theocritus, the pine tree. Idyll, O goatherd. Taina for ekaina, that one there, which poti tais pagais in melisdatai, which sings, literally makes a sweet sound. Poti for pros, pagaisin for pagai, pagai is spring, so which sings beside the streams, beside the springs. And sweetly, this is probably adverbial here, sweetly also, tu for su, you, surisdes for surisdes, this is the second person singular, do you play the syrinx, these are the Greek panpipes. Metapana, after pan, apoise is from ap, that's apophero, and this is in the middle. So you would win the second prize after pan. You've got to put pan first or you'll get upset. So you showed your respect for the gods in this rustic setting. So after pan you would win, you would take off the second prize. Ike, if, tainos for ekainos. So if that one, that is pan, hele, this is from Irio in the middle, so if he chose, subjunctive here, the kereion tragon, the tragon is the male goat with horns, keraon, so if he chose the horned goat, Iga to lapse, this is from lapse, this is lambano, this is this future from lambano. So you would receive, or you would take the she-goat. And if Tainos, that one, so he, that's Pan, if he, Labe from lambano, if he took the she-goat as his geras, as his prize, hey chimeros, now the chimeros is the young she-goat. Katare, this is poetic here, literally flows from katareo. So we say goes to, Greek here says flows to you, este for se. Chimero, de kalon krias. Krias is flesh, so the flesh, and this is the genitive here, that O for the oo. The flesh of the young she-goat is kalos, is perhaps beautiful, is sweet. Estike amelkses, until you milk it, until you milk her, I should say. So in other words, while she's still young, her flesh is kalon, sweet. Lines 7 to 11, we now have the Ipolos responds with a response which is very delicately balanced with these ones here, and again we get the Ika, we get these prizes. The pan gets replaced by the muses. There's a beautiful interrelationship between the two stanzas here. So the Ipolos responds to Thyrsis' praise by an antiphon of praise that delicately responds to the first 6 verses here. And also the setting changes slightly. We have water gets introduced into the picture, because in all of this Theocritus is painting lots of very beautiful pictures, and so in this stanza water comes into the vignette. Hardion for Hadion, so sweeter, comparative. So Hardion o poimen, to theon melos to katakes ten apotas petras katalebetai hupsothen hudo aika taimoisai tan oida doronagontai anatus sakitan lapsegeras I de caresque tenais ana labain tu de tan o in husteron axe. O shepherd, to seon melos. Seon is that just a personal adjective, your. So your song, understand, is, your song is sweeter than. Now the tot goes with the katakes, goes with the taina, tainot, it would be, goes with the hudor. So these all go together. Katakes is flowing down. So it's, your song is sweeter than the water, then that water there, katakes flowing down, katalabatai, which almost drips down, pours down from the rock, hoops are then from on high. That tas for tes. So from the rock up high, you could imagine a waterfall, water dripping down, making that sweet sound as it falls down from on high. If tie for high, the muses agontai, if they led off tan oida. Now this is a very odd accusative. I think it's only here. The normal accusative, we'll see in a minute, is oin, as we'll get it down here. This is just a variation on that. It's just an accusative. Ois is the word for you, E-W-B. So if the muses led off as the prize, the you, then the lapse, again for lapse, future, you will take as your prize the ana, the lamb, and the to goes with the verb, so you would take the lamb, the sakitan lamb. Now a sakitan means it's fed in the stall. A serkos is a word for stall. In other words, it's stall fed rather than allowed to graze with the rest of the herd, so it's specially looked after. And if areske, this is impersonal here, so if it was pleasing tenais for them, that is for the muses, to take the ana, the lamb, then you, axe from ago, you would lead off, you will lead off, husteron secondly, so afterwards, the oin, the you. So we have these first two lovely stanzas setting up the competition. So in the next couple of lines, Thyrsis now invites the goatherd to sit down and play his pipe while he tends the goats. Now we get this verb alao, which is a lovely verb. It means do you want to, do you wish. It's not Homeric. It's common, very common in this pastoral poetry. So do you wish, poti tan numfan. These are genitive plurals here for ton numphone. So do you wish by the nymphs. So we've had Pan, the muses, and now the nymphs. And this Hellenistic poetry, this pastoral poetry, often likes repetition. So lais, lais. So do you want by the nymphs? Do you want, O goatherd? Kathixas, from Kathisdo, having sat down, taidi, here, in this place. Hos here has the meaning of near. Sorry, of where, I should say, which is a dialect use of hos. So where there is this cat antes geolophon, this is this sloping hill, and the tamarisk trees. So do you want, and the infinitive after the la is surisden, which for surisdane, this is an infinitive here, den for dane. So do you wish to play the syrinx, the panpipe? But I, nomuso, I will I will pasture the goats entoidi meanwhile. So you've got to understand chrono or something here. So in that time. So meanwhile, while you're playing the pipes, I will pasture the goats. And that is the first section up to there, and I'll continue this in a later video.